Enduro Method is an online strength and conditioning program built for those who ride by those who ride. We are professional coaches dedicated to building the best and most revolutionary off and on the bike training for dirt bikers around. Enduro Method offers a monthly subscription which gives you access to our ongoing current training program. By subscribing to Enduro Method, you receive our Iron Track, which is for those who have a gym or gym equipment, and our Gravity Track for those with minimal to no equipment. We design our training for riders who want to keep their general physical preparedness in top form year-round. We also offer more specific training plans that you can purchase anytime. We have built an 8-week hard enduro training plan designed to get you ready to race with structured off and on the bike workouts, all in a comprehensive 8-week plan. If you are interested in joining the monthly Enduro Method training subscription, we are offering a special discount for our podcast listeners. Use discount code EMPodcast23 in all caps for 50% off your first month of training. See the show notes where you can find discount codes and a link for more information and to sign up for Enduro Method. And now, on to the show. All right, today on the show, joined with Jared Lambe. He's a professional US Hard Enduro, well, not just US, but professional hard enduro rider. Jared, if you want to start, maybe give a little background on you, kind of riding history, and bring us up to present.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thanks for having me on, Josh. It's a pleasure. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of riding history, I was fortunate enough where I kind of grew up around it. My dad was into motorbikes, so I was introduced from a really young age. Got my first bike when I want to say I was like 2 or 3. Couldn't ride it for a bit, it was too small, but it was a little PW50, and we just kind of ride around the pits. And my dad was into motocross, so we'd go to, like, it was just what we did on a weekend as kind of a family. We'd go to like some of the local motocross races, go watch my dad race. All of his brothers were into it as well. He's got three brothers that all rode. And so me and my brother just kind of grew up around it and just started loving bikes from a really young age. First started racing when I was about 8 years old on a KX65. I'm in the schoolboy class and just motocross races, and it was just like for fun, just on the weekend, and did that for a lot of years, until I was about 18, and got to like a fairly decent level, but just like club stuff. Was started riding in the adult classes when I was about 16, like B class, and then moved up into the A class and was just having fun with it. And then when I was 19, moved away from home and went and did some traveling for a bit. I went and lived in Australia for a couple of years, and so kind of stopped riding at that point for a bit. And then it wasn't until a few years later we moved to I met Haley, who's now my wife, and we lived in England for a bit, and then we decided to move over to Hawaii. And then that's kind of when I got back into dirt bikes, and really Hawaii is where I started racing like more and more competitively. And it was the first time getting into enduro as well. Up to that point I'd done motocross, I'd done a bit of trials as well, but never done enduro. So Hawaii was kind of the birthplace of that for me.
Nice. When you were riding motocross and trials, was it just because you hadn't been introduced to enduro, or was it also part of it was just easier access to tracks and stuff like that for areas to ride?
Yeah, it was mostly just because I'd never been introduced to it. My dad was it was actually funny, I was just talking to him about this when we were together over last month, but he was just into motocross. That was his thing. And he was actually just saying he tried, I think, one enduro. This was probably like back in the 90s or something, and he tried an enduro and he just thought it was like the worst thing ever. He's like, why would anyone want to do this? He loves it now. He actually has a Beta 300 and does a bit as well. But
Nice.
yeah, it was probably more so just like my friends, like the people I was around weren't doing it, so it just didn't really, never really crossed my mind. I always thought it looked a bit weird riding a bike with a headlight.
Yeah.
And just like, yeah, just I guess when I was younger, thought that motocross was a lot cooler. I'm the opposite now.
Yeah.
Enduro is way cooler, but yeah, it's probably more so just that. And then in England as well, it's I think enduro it's popular over there, but it's more like on private land, and so most of the stuff you do is events. And so I think motocross might be just for like your everyday person might be even more popular in England than it is over here. Because I mean, in America, you can a lot of people just trail ride, right? Like you can ride where you want, and that's
Right.
what a lot of the like the free stuff, the easy accessible stuff to do over here is like trail riding as opposed to a track. But in England, it's kind of like sixes. Like either way, you're usually riding on private property, so that
Huh.
probably played a part as well.
Yeah, I know growing up, at least on the West Coast for sure, like you kind of take it for granted, all the accessible trails and being able
Yeah,
to just kind of ride wherever in Idaho, Montana, and yeah, it's pretty cool. But then, you go East Coast and everything, there's a lot of private land and
yeah,
yeah, it definitely changes accessibility and yeah, it makes it a little bit more challenging, I'm sure.
yeah, for sure.
What was Hawaii like for you when you were there? What kind of got you back into the enduro, or not back into, but into the enduro for the first time?
Yeah, so I moved there for university. That's why we were in Hawaii in the first place. And didn't really like I was riding at the time a little bit, like when I would go back home. Like my dad has always had bikes, so I'd go out and ride still and was still into mountain biking and stuff. But when we moved to Hawaii, I was like all about surfing. That was like my thing for a bit. So yeah, I was just studying surfing every day or as much as I could. And then it's actually a funny story. He's one of my good friends now, Braden, lived right across the road from us in Hawaii. And we were both married. He was married, and we lived in like it was like the university housing, married housing, like really small, like studio apartment. And I'm outside one day, I think working on my car or something. He sees I'm wearing like a Fox, like motocross shirt, like just has the Fox logo on it. And he's like asking me about it, like, oh, do you ride? Or do you just like the brand or whatever? And then we start chatting, and he's like, oh, you should come check this out. And so we go inside of his little studio apartment. It's like the size of a shoebox where him and his wife live. And he just has this like RM 250 sat like at the end of his there in his living room. And he's like, yeah, I just picked this up. And he's like, we're chatting about it. And he's like, oh, you should come give it a go. And so I think the first day we just pulled it out onto the street, and he let me fire it up and rode it up and down the street. And I was like, man, I gotta get a bike again. Just that feeling of opening the throttle and riding. And so kind of developed from there. Braden was nice enough. We went out to the track one weekend and kind of rode. I didn't even know there was a track in Hawaii. I didn't like moving there. I had no idea that people rode dirt bikes over there. I just didn't really cross my mind. But yeah, we ended up going to the track and rode his bike for a bit, and kind of just decided, man, I need to get another bike. So convinced the wife to let me get one. And we were like pretty broke at the time, broke students. I went out and bought it was a 2001 CR250 was my first bike over there. I think I paid like 2.5 grand for it. It was worth like twice as much as our car was at the time. um, and then yeah, just kind of, and the intent was like I got the CR250 because I was like, oh, maybe I can, because there's a pretty good motocross track over there as well, over on Oahu. It's actually where the race was this year, Enduro Fest, same park. So yeah, the intent was that I'd get the CR250 to be able to ride on the track, but then also have like a 2-stroke, and it had an 18-inch rear wheel. So I had like actually had a trials tire on when I got it. And so I thought, oh, this is perfect. I can do some trail riding on and kind of experiment with that too. And so that's kind of where the enduro journey started for me.
Nice. And then just taking that thing out and about and getting a feel for trails instead of track. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was weird at first because like I said, I did trials for a few years, and so like riding that type of terrain was just associated it with a trials bike, and then like fast stuff, you associate with the motocross bike. So kind of combining the two and doing a bit of both was definitely strange at first, but I was just like immediately hooked. And then started finding out about all these like different trails in Hawaii, and some of the local guys over there were like nice enough to like show me around and show me some of the hard stuff and be patient while I was dragging this bike up riverbeds and whatnot. um, so yeah, and it felt like having that trials background and the motocross background, I felt like I had a pretty good foundation, so I picked it up pretty quick. And so it's always enjoyable when you feel like you can, you feel like you're seeing improvements and getting better and being able to push yourself. So yeah, I just really, really enjoyed it.
yeah. So what was your first hard enduro race that you entered?
My first hard enduro race was in Hawaii. It was on the CR 250. I forgot what the name of the race was, but all I remember is it was pouring with rain. It like rained the whole night before. And so it was soaking wet. I think it was a fairly short loop. I want to say like the A class, the fast guys were doing it in like 30 minutes or an hour or something. And I think it was just as many laps as you could do. So I don't know if it was really called it was probably called like a hare scramble rather than a hard enduro. Um, but yeah, that was the first one. I remember I think I had a motocross tire on with about 12 psi in the back.
Nice.
I hadn't got the memo yet that that's not the way to go. And so yeah, it was a struggle. I think I raced in the B class and I came, I think, fourth place. I was like just missed the third place podium. I was pretty gutted,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was my first one. That was probably 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then did you stick with that bike for the next one, or did you?
I think I might have done, I think I did 1 or 2 races on that bike. And then my next bike after that I got in 2019. It was a KTM 300, 2016. And I actually got it from Kapili Olsen, who puts on Enduro Fest. I think it's his cousin or his nephew, lives right across the street from him. But it was his bike, bought it used, and that was just like, first of all, just having an e-start, it was like the best thing ever. That was a game changer. And then yeah, it was just nice being on a bike that was designed for enduro and not motocross. So yeah, and I actually bought it, and then the week after went over to Kauai to do that race over there. They do a big race every year on Labor Day in September. So got it, and I think yeah, like a week later, I think I rode it once, like the night before, and then the next day, I like threw some parts on it and took it down to the shipping container, and it got shipped off to Kauai, and went and raced Kauai the week later.
All right. With your, like, during that time, were you starting to get out and ride trails and get training in? Because I mean, when did you, let's see, I think it was 2019, right? You did King of Motos?
No, that was 2021.
Oh, 2021.
That was the first year, yeah.
Okay. Was that your first race in the States?
Yeah, that was my first race in the mainland. Yeah.
Okay, so you've just been doing stuff over there and getting more and more serious. What during that time, like what were you doing for riding or kind of quote unquote training? Anything, or were you just going out and riding the hard stuff that you could find?
Yeah, at that point, like the first few years of doing trail, it was just having fun. Like there's no like structure or like training per se. It was just getting out and riding. I was riding quite a lot. Was lucky enough to where I lived, like I could just ride right out of the back, basically out of our backyard. And one of my good friends, Eli, we would go. He also had a CR 250 at the same time as I did, so we kind of bonded on that. And, he ended up getting the KTM about the same time as I did, but I'd ride with him a lot, and we would like ride probably like 2 or 3 times a week, so a decent amount. But yeah, there was no structure. It was just we were just going out and trying to find like difficult lines and just challenging each other to like hit hills or like weird steps and looking for like like hard riverbed sections and whatnot. And it was just for fun, really.
Yeah. Did that just with like doing that where you're hitting sections or repeating the riverbed stuff, was that just something you like, was it just fun, or were you knew kind of from the trials background that that's a way to improve? Because I feel like for us, at least for me, like when I was kind of in that area,
Yeah,
because of the vast network or the availability to drive 3 or 4 hours and find, you know, a whole new area of trail network, like I spent so much more time getting like distance for the day
yeah,
instead of like zone. Like if I went and worked on something but it was only 10 miles in the day but it took me 4 hours, I was always like, that was
yeah,
stupid. You know,
yeah.
more like I got to get 80 miles today or whatever it is. So it's interesting because like just that difference of maybe having the trials experience, knowing that like, hey, if I work sections, like this is really good for skill building and technique and all that stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And I think at the time I was riding like that where I just do a lot of sections. But it wasn't really like a conscious thing at the time. It was just like that's what I thought. That was like my idea of fun,
Yeah.
especially like on doing like trialsy type stuff. That's just like probably from the trials background. Just that's kind of more like the trial style. But yeah, I've noticed that with a lot of people, a lot of trail guys, have more of that mindset of where it's like they want to cover distance. Like you ride one section and you ride it once. Like even if it's
Right.
a hard one, you try and get through it, and then you'd be like, sweet, I got through it. Like what's next? And you
Right.
just trying to get as far as you can, or do like a big loop or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I think I've always kind of been the opposite, where like I'll hit something hard and I'm like, man, I need to go try that and do it again, but do it better.
Right.
And that I don't know, like in the beginning at least, it wasn't really so much like, oh, I want to do it because I want to get better and I want to improve my skills. Like I enjoy that. I enjoy like hitting the same thing multiple times and trying to almost like perfect it or like just be able to do it better than I did it the first time or the time before. So
Yeah.
definitely probably some trials influence there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, yeah, exactly the other thing. Like you find a hard section on the trail, but it's literally like you paddle through it, you push, you do whatever, and
Yeah.
sweet, it's done, and move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So like the opportunities where you could actually really make some progress on stuff gets kind of skipped over a lot of times.
Yeah. Because usually the first time you hit something hard, it's like even if you've done something similar like 100 times before, it's like you don't get it. You can usually get it better the second time usually.
Yeah.
And the more you repeat it, the better you get. And so I think that helps, because then if you're doing that, if you're putting those reps in, then when you do come across like the same section or similar types of sections, like on other parts of the trail or on other days, like you're more equipped and have the skill to just hit it better the first time. So
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah. I
helps.
do think like one of the critiques on that is like the more you hit the exact same thing, the more you you get a little bit more efficient at it, what's coming, all those things. But I don't really think there's actually a downside, because all of that practice and knowledge of like, yeah, you know what it is, and you can manipulate going in or put yourself in a better position. But then when you see something similar that's different, you're still able to take all those skills and awareness and like apply it to the next thing.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely transfers over.
Yeah.
Well, from section to section. Yeah. I was gonna say too, like when if you're on a trail ride and you do something, there's a hard section coming up. Exactly what you said. Most of the time you just, especially if you're in a group, you're just in survival mode. So you're not thinking what's like the best way or the cleanest, most efficient way to get up this. You're like, what's the kind of the most guaranteed way I'm going to get from A to B?
Yeah.
I think if you just practicing something over and over, you can kind of take more chances and find out what works and what doesn't. So you can, kind of risk like failing altogether, knowing that you can go back and try it again. So
right.
I like that too.
Yeah, push your limits a little bit by trying either a different line or different approaches, and see what works and where you're at. Yeah, it was funny, on last Sunday we did a little bit bigger of a trail ride, and it was one of the, like, I went through this little creek, and I mean, it's like pretty good, fun, flowy, quote unquote single track, but there was like a couple of rocks in the trail leading up out of the creek, and I kind of saw it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go over this rock, hold pressure, and then I'll bounce my front tire off this rock and then do this thing, and like completely lost traction on the first rock, stuffed the front end into the rock, like almost fell over sideways in the trail, and I'm just looking around like, huh.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. Sweet. So came over. So King of Motos 2021, first race in the States. And at this point, you'd move over?
Yeah, it was kind of a weird sort of transition. So our home base was still in Hawaii in 2021, but my job went remote because of COVID, which was super nice. And then at the time, Haley, my wife, had started university as well. She decided to go back. She had like a couple of years left. And because of COVID, all of her classes were online as well. And so she was still studying at a school in Hawaii, but she was just able to do it remotely. So we just kind of I think originally before COVID, I wanted to do, I've been hearing about the US Hard Enduro series, and I was super keen to give that a go and try and get to as many of those races as I could. And I thought I'd probably just kind of travel out to like a few of them from Hawaii, while we were still, like, Haley was still in school and my job was over there and whatnot. But yeah, we just got this kind of an opportunity came up where we could live in Utah and do everything we needed to do from here. So we moved over, I think in January of 2021, right before King of Motors, and then ended up being in Utah for like most of that year.
Nice.
Yeah.
And with that year, were you able to race the whole series?
Yeah, so I did all of the West rounds that year.
Okay.
And then I did a couple of the East ones. I did Battle of the Goats in Tennessee. But yeah, I was able to hit all the West ones, which was nice.
And then same in 22?
No, 22 actually, 22, we moved back to Hawaii the end of 21, like September 21. And then 22, we were in Hawaii that whole year.
Okay.
And so it was a little bit more difficult to get out to the race. I actually only did one US Hard Enduro that year, I think, just Silver Kings. Traveled over for that. And then I think there might have been maybe one Hawaii race that I did. Oh, I think it was just did one Hawaii race, but it wasn't even like a trail race. It was more of what do they call it? Oh, a TT. So it was like on the track, but with no jumps.
Huh.
Yeah. They do quite a lot of those over there. They're pretty fun. A lot of the trail guys will go out for them because it's just they use the motocross track, but they just take out all the big jumps.
Yeah.
It's actually really good for like it's good because it's fun going fast, and then it's good practice for like the hard enduro stuff, like the the faster stuff, the prologues and whatnot. But yeah, I
Yeah.
did those in 22.
Nice.
Yeah.
And 23 made it back over.
Yeah, and then 23 this year we came back to Utah again the beginning of this year, and then yeah, been here since. So gotten out to a few more races this year.
Yeah. So did all the West and couple East.
This year I did all of the West except Texas. Didn't make it out to Texas. And then I actually didn't hit any of the East this year. I was hoping to, but it was right before Erzberg.
Yeah.
And there was a race I wanted to do in England before Erzberg, and I think that was actually the same week as like the double header they did. The what was it, the Keystone Challenge?
Yeah, the shotgun and
Yeah, shotgun.
tough like roar that
Yeah,
weekend.
that's the
Okay.
one. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, just the West ones this year.
Yeah. Yeah, leading up to Erzberg, what has that been like on the docket for you for a while that you've been thinking about and just able to pull it off this year? Or
Yeah, it's been on the docket for a while for sure. Probably pretty much ever since since the CR250 days.
yeah.
I was kind of dreaming about it, but yeah, probably when I first got into enduro is when I really started like watching videos and you see stuff on YouTube and whatnot. I think I'd heard about it like years and years ago, but just I wasn't really paying much attention to enduro at the time. But then yeah, probably I thought I'd actually do it a bit sooner, but then there was COVID and whatnot, and slowed things down a bit. But yeah, it's definitely been on the bucket list for the past several years.
Yeah, I do. I feel like that was the first hard enduro I'd ever seen,
Yeah,
like probably on YouTube or something. And it was back when like God, who was racing? It was Lettenbichler and like
yeah,
God, of course Jarvis was there. But yeah, I just remember looking at it. And part of
or
me,
Taddy.
what's that?
Maybe Taddy was there as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it's funny because like part of me at the time who literally has just ridden a couple of trails, probably like, well, that's probably not that hard. Like
yeah,
right up there.
yeah. Because a lot of the videos you see, it's just the hill climbs, like most of it.
Right.
A lot of the really hard stuff, like with one, the camera never does it justice. So you just can't really, you don't get a sense. And then a lot of the hard stuff is in the forest too. So you're like, I was the same. Like you watch the video and you're like, oh yeah, how hard can it be? Just a few, wide open hill climbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so getting over there and like travel and logistics, what did it help having been over in England and like having any connections over there as far as just organizing and getting situated,
Yeah.
maybe knowing a little bit more of like how to go about the travel part?
Yeah, for sure. It definitely helped having family over there. Of course, all my dad and all my immediate family are still in England, and so that was kind of like my home base for the race. So what I ended up doing was just buying a bike out there. I just got a Gas EC300. And the timing of that was perfect too, because it was like a little bit earlier this year when KTM and Gas were doing their sale. So like the bikes were a lot cheaper, and it was the end of the 23s.
Yeah.
So I got a good deal on a bike, and I worked with a dealership over there, Triple D Motorsport, which is like a fairly local dealer over in the Lake District. And Neil is the guy that owns it, and he was just super helpful through the whole thing. Heard about him through, I think my dad was the one that originally heard about them, that they were just kind of solid. and reached out. And his son's called Bert, and he's doing the junior Hard Enduro championship this year.
Oh, nice.
And so he's been doing like all of those races. He did Erzberg last year. So yeah, it was a massive help having them kind of helping me out and kind of giving some mentorship in that first year. There's like, you don't really see it, but there's a lot that goes into it, and just like little bits of advice and things they did to help made a huge difference. It made it a lot easier. So yeah, that was big. So yeah, I ended up just buying a bike there, and then Neil helped me out with some parts, and then I ended up taking quite a lot of parts over from here. Took over, I don't know if you've seen any of the pictures, took over like a pack of IRC tires, just checked them as check baggage on a Delta, and then just had like a case full of parts like skid plate and disc guards and seat covers and all that type of stuff to try and make it the same as the bike over here.
Yeah. Did you ship over any suspension or anything, or did you just run stock?
Yeah, no, I'm just on the old stockers.
Okay.
That's probably I think maybe something I want to try and do the end of this year or next year is some suspension work. But yeah, I'm actually still just fully stock. Stock spring, stock valving, out the box.
Yeah, nice.
It would be nice to have something, especially for the for like the prologue, the stock suspension on the KTM's gas gases work really well in like the slow stuff, but
yeah,
it definitely would have been nice to have it something for the prologue Ezberg.
yeah. When you did a race, you were able to do a race a week before Erzberg, was it?
Yeah, it was 2 weeks before. Yeah,
2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, and that was good prep. So what I ended up going, I flew out to England about 3.5 weeks before Erzberg, and got there. My dad had already done a lot of the bike, which was super nice. So like a lot of it was already ready. And then so got there, put some more parts on it, and went out and was able to do a bit of testing, just like at some practice tracks that first week. And then that first weekend I was there, I went and did edge off roads. They call it last one standing. I think it was one of the British, call it the British Extreme Super Series or something, the best. So it was one of those rounds. So I went and did that, and that was super nice just to like race, test the bike, and just make sure everything was set up, and ended up being a really fun race as well. So yeah, that definitely helped with getting ready and feeling ready for Erzberg, especially bike wise.
Yeah. So then you had 2 weeks, little recovery, just hanging out in between.
Yeah, I did a bit of riding that week after, and then we actually left for Erzberg on the weekend before. So I think we left on the Sunday or the Saturday night. I think Saturday night. Drove down to Dover, got the ferry over to France, and then drove from France over to Austria. Got there on Monday, I think.
What's it like just being there, and how many bikes start the prologue? It's like 1,500 or something, right?
Yeah, I think it varies year to year, but yeah, I think usually around 1,500.
And then one bike every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
More or less on the start, and it goes from 8 a.m. to however long it takes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 8 a.m. I had a pretty bad number this last year. I was like number 964 or something. So it was like, I think 3 p.m. by the time I went for my first run.
Wow.
And then yeah, I'd imagine they maybe finished around 5 or something. So yeah, it's like all day, just it's kind of cool. You stand in the quarry and you can just see like little dust trails like weaving up the mine. But, yeah.
What do you think, like how much does that prologue course change over the course of the day? Does it pay to have a good
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're ideally you want to be in that top 200 if you really want to get a fast time. It gets pretty clapped out, like towards as it gets more and more people go through it. In some ways it got easier because there's all these like, I don't know if you've seen it on like the GoPro footage, but there's all these like chicane turns. So like some of those, like the walls will start to break down on the side, and so you can almost like the line is more of a straight line instead of like a S turn on some of them. So like in some ways it gets faster, but then it's like you get holes that are like, you know, a foot, 2 feet deep, and then have like exposed rocks and whatnot, and you're hitting them like fifth or sixth gear pinned. So it definitely gets like the second day, a lot of people get hurt, I think, at the prologue, like all crashing because everyone's trying to obviously go as fast as they can. And I think a lot of the crashes are on the second day just because the track just gets so clapped out. And you just have like big old rocks on the side, and yeah, it gets sketchy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's one of those things, if you look at the result times, I mean, tenths of a second are positions.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think I ended up on the fourth row this year. I was like number 153. They do rows of 50. And yeah, I was like 1 second off getting on the next row. So like literally like and it's not like short, like I want to say my time was like 11 minutes 40 or something like that, like 11-minute mark. But yeah, even like a second, 2 seconds can be the difference between like 20 or 30 positions.
Right. So then you're just replaying that prologue in every little corner, bobble, or
yeah.
And it's not like it's 3 minutes. I mean, it's 10 minutes plus.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty long time to be basically going as fast as you can to get the best start position you can.
Yeah. It's wild, honestly. Yeah, I actually enjoyed it though. It was kind of maybe from the motocross background too, but I enjoyed going fast, and you just feel like when you get to the top, it's just you get a bit of a rush when you finish and you're still alive.
So leading in, you finish the prologue, and is it the next? So you do prologue one day, prologue two second day, and then main race third day.
Yeah. So yeah, the way they do it, the Friday you do your first prologue run, and then the Saturday you get another run, and it's just the same order. I was hoping that like the second day that it would be adjusted based on your like time from the previous day.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too, is the track gets clapped out, and then the other thing is when you're a higher number, you end up being behind a lot of lap riders. So like both days I was past at least like 6 or 7 people, which obviously costs you some time. Most people, like nearly everyone actually was really nice about just like moving over to the side. Like when they hear you come in, it wasn't like man, I actually did a race in Utah this year. I had a bit of PTSD. I was pretty stressed leading up to the prologue because of this one race I did in Utah. It was like a time card enduro, and it was over in Eagle Mountain. A lot of it's like really was fairly like one line, and it was dusty, and like there was a few times, and obviously you're racing against the clock, you're not like racing each other, and like there's a few times I came up behind slower riders, and I usually try and be like pretty polite if I can, but if someone doesn't move over, I'll just give them a little rev. And there were some people that just like, and most people were just like are nice and move over to the side, but there was like a few I was stuck behind for like minutes, right? Like, and then you try and like force a pass, and it starts getting dangerous and whatnot. But so I was kind of worried that would happen at Erzberg, that I would get like stuck behind someone and it would kind of just like wreck me, and wouldn't qualify very well. But everyone was super nice, and for the most part, the track's pretty wide. It's just like in all the chicane, like the tight bits where you're going like through chicanes where it's difficult to make a pass. But I was lucky enough to where I came up to people like in a pretty good spot for the most part, and they just let us pass. But yeah, even then, I mean, like I said, the seconds count. So if you can be in like one of the higher rows. Like if I was, especially for the guys that ride the pro class over here, if they're gonna go over and do Erzberg, like in the future, I would definitely reach out to them. I mean, there's no guarantee they're going to give you a better number, but if you tell them kind of like your riding ability and if you're in the pro class or whatnot, and ask if you can get a higher number, even if it's in the top like 300 or 400, I think that's probably a pretty big advantage. So
right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then second day, you got your race number, or you got your improved position start, and then they do waves of 50 for the main race.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So the Saturday is a second prologue, and then Sunday is, it's weird. It's I guess a little different to over here. The start times are like 12 o'clock, probably because half the riders are hungover from the night before. No, but they start it a little later than most races I've been to, and then waves at 50. And I think they say it's supposed to be like a minute apart, but I think it was actually a little bit more than that. Like this year I was looking, because Graham Jarvis was on the second row this year, and I think it was like 2 or 3 minutes, I think, until they set up the second row. So, but yeah.
And then most of what you see on like video, YouTube, like there's definitely some GoPro footage of the woods and stuff at Erzberg that, in the trees, but a lot of it's the big hill climbs and chaos and all that stuff. So what was it like from your start, like getting into the race?
Yeah, the start is bonkers. It's just like flat out. So it's just super fast. And I actually got a pretty good start. I got some GoPro footage. I just need to put it up on the old YouTube, but was probably like 5th or 6th off the start, and then managed to get, before we got into the woods, I think I was like first on my row. So that was really nice. And then the roost is just no joke as well. Like that's one thing too, if anyone's thinking of doing it, I highly recommend taking a chest protector. One for the prologue. I ended up borrowing someone's for the prologue, but I never wear a chest protector over here, so I just didn't really cross my mind. But yeah, like the prologue definitely felt like I needed it. And then the main race, just off the start, the rocks are pretty brutal. I was wearing my Apple Watch, and then I had my GoPro on, and both of them got smashed to bits. My Apple Watch
really
destroyed, yeah. And then my GoPro, luckily I had like the protective screen on the GoPro protected it, so it was just all that was broke. But and then just like pebble dash all over my chest. But yeah, so that the start is pretty nuts. It's fun though, just like flat out, and there's a couple hill climbs, and then you go into the woods. So I was in a pretty good position going into the woods. But like I was coming off the 4th row, and so there's like maybe 150 riders in front. So by the time I got into the woods, there was already like a fair few bottlenecks, right, like on the first section. Got around the first few like pretty well. So I think it actually clocked me like on the first checkpoint. I was already in like the top 100, I think. So I was able to get around a few people in the first few sections. And then and you go off, do some more stuff in the woods, and then maybe I think around like the 3rd checkpoint or 4th checkpoint, like the bottlenecks, that's when they started getting pretty bad. And it's tricky because it was wet that year. It had been raining a lot, and so it was slippery, and a lot of the stuff in the woods is just one line. So like one guy makes a mistake, and then it piles up pretty quick. And then like Ezberg as well, the problem with the bottlenecks is you'll get a bottleneck and then no one wants to wait in line, so everyone just pushes to the front. And so what happens is you'll have this, like, it might be a hill climb, one guy gets stuck, and then the bottleneck starts to form, and instead of like leaving space, people will start just pushing in. And so like by the time you hit it, like you have guys that are trying to hit like a hill climb with like absolutely no run up because everyone's just cramming in and trying to get in, and so then they get stuck. And then yeah, it just it honestly is, it's kind of crazy. It's like a war zone out there. Like everyone's just like, I think I was talking to a few people like before the race, and they were like, yeah, just like no one's your friend out there, just it's every man for himself. And that's really like what it feels like. Everyone's just like just wants to, yeah, to just go for it. So but yeah, so there was a like one big bottleneck that kind of I lost a lot of time on, and then after that I was pretty smooth sailing. And then I think right before checkpoint 18, I came to another bottleneck, and that was a pretty big one. It was like it was pretty gnarly. It was like up this rocky. You might have seen it. I think even some of the pros were struggling on it. But it was like up this rocky section, and we were there for, it was close to an hour that I was sat there waiting in that bottleneck.
Wow.
So, and there wasn't really much you could do. Like there was only really one line. There wasn't like a way to go around it. So, and that's just where like you start is just everything. Like trying to be on like the first or second row, and then just like getting through the pack. Once you're like, I think even for the pros, they were like waiting in some bottlenecks. Like the top, I heard outside the top 25, like even the top 50 were getting held up quite a bit. So
right. And that's also, I mean, sounds like could be condition dependent. If it's dry, some of that stuff would probably just be a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a wet year. Get rain a lot that week. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So overall experience there, is it something you do again, want to do again?
oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. I feel like it's one of those things you can't just do it once. You have to go back again as well. But
Yeah.
just the whole, I mean, it's funny because I would say that like the race itself is maybe, like in all honesty, it might not be the best race like ever. Like I think like Silver Kings this couple weekends ago, like the actual racing experience, the course and whatnot, might have been more fun. But the whole experience, just being there, like the mind, the atmosphere, the fans are just like wild. And then it's just such an icon, isn't it, in the sport? So like just there and being able to experience it, and then not to take away from the course too, it is super fun. Like the hill climbs are just unreal. Like some of the longest hill climbs I've done, just so fun. And then the stuff in the woods is fun. There's definitely some drawbacks, like the bottlenecks is a big one, and I could see a lot of people not really liking the prologues. It's just so flat out. It's kind of not what we're used to, but if you can kind of get past that and just kind of have the expectation that if you're not in the first couple of rows, you're probably going to be sat in some queues, then I would definitely recommend everyone at least try it once, even if it's just to go watch. Like it's just unreal being there.
Yeah.
Real venue.
What other races like on the West? Do you have any more on the West series that you're interested in doing?
Yeah, I'd love to do Romaniacs. Was actually supposed to do it this year, but kind of wasn't in the cards this year. But hopefully next year get out to do that one. Serbia, I heard, is really fun. Wouldn't mind trying that at some point.
Yeah, that looked really cool. Just stuff I've seen.
Yeah, everyone I've spoke to said that one was mega. So I'd love to get out to that one. Abastoni looked like a cool one too, but I don't know if they're gonna keep doing that one or not. And then, I mean, honestly, it'd be fun. I don't know if this will ever happen, but to do like a full series of the world rounds would be super fun. Just going for the different countries, but
yeah,
it's not cheap. So,
That's awesome.
but yeah, those are probably the big ones. Like Erzberg, I'll definitely do. I want to do Erzberg again next year for sure. Especially now that like I felt like I learned. I felt pretty well prepared this year, especially with the help from Neil and Triple D and Bert and all them. Um, but like there's still just stuff that you learn from experience. That I think will help a lot for next year. So definitely like to go have another crack at it and see if I can get a bit further than I did this year.
Yeah.
And then yeah, Romaniacs is definitely definitely on the bucket list as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like any of that stuff, like if you've never traveled and raced like that, there's going to be a learning curve, and having the expectation of, not every, it's hard because it is a big expense. It's a big time away from work or family. And
Yeah.
so there's a little bit of this expectation of like bucket list, and maybe it is just a one and done thing. But if you plan on doing it multiple times, like having that expectation of, yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm going to, obviously do the best I can, but also knowing that shit's not going to go perfect.
Yeah.
Be hiccups, like you might not have the best race of your life, like all those other things, and using that as like a stepping stone, and just kind of accepting it as the experience it is, and not trying to pile on all these expectations.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Yeah. What did you, having done that one, and then with the races here in the States you were able to do this year, what was your thought? I mean, you kind of mentioned, Silver Kings, which we both did a couple weeks ago, which was awesome. How the other courses you feel, maybe not stack up? I mean, they're so different, right? But
Yeah.
like just the series in general in the US, how that's grown.
Yeah, the series in the US has like really come a long way, I think, even just since 2021. Like the races just keep getting better and better every year. The organizers, I feel like, just like constantly just improving the way things are run, and like the relationships with the promoters and whatnot, and just yeah, it's really cool to see the growth of the sport over here. So yeah, this year I got to go do most of the West rounds. So I started at King of Motors, which I'd done that back in 2021. So it was my second time there. And then the same with Grinding Stone. And then Hawaii, which was super cool. It was awesome to see Hawaii on the calendar this year. I think that was a big step for the series as well. And hopefully that will stick around for a long time. But and then of course Silver Kings a few weeks ago was a mega event too. So yeah, it's awesome to see kind of these big races and how they're like continuing to grow and get better. In terms of how it compares to Erzberg, it's so like difficult to compare it, but I would say of course Erzberg is bigger in the sense that it's been around for a long time, and in terms of like the fans, the amount of people that you get there, and just the whole hype around it is maybe bigger than some of the rounds over here. But I think, having said that, like Grinding Stone, all those rounds, Grinding Stone, Hawaii, King of Motors, they all have the potential, I think, to be like an Erzberg. Silver Kings as well. Like I could see all of those potentially being like world championship rounds. So yeah, it's cool to see that progression in the US, and I hope it continues to keep growing over the next few years, which I'm sure it will. But
yeah, it just seems like, oh yeah, same thing, the progression. Matt and Josh, and they're just crushing it, and more and more people are showing up and getting into the sport, and
yeah,
it's cool to see the events, the promoters and the race directors and stuff are just putting together better and better courses.
Yeah, 100%. I think they're definitely taking steps in the right direction. Like something I've noticed this year I've been impressed with is like catering for people, like for all abilities, which honestly, like Erzberg is not the best for. Like it's just like you have the prologue, which everyone does the same prologue flat out, and then the main race is just one big course, right? So like if you're a C class rider or like a slow B class rider or a B class rider, you probably, I don't know if Erzberg would be like the most fun race. Like you might get to like the first few checkpoints, but maybe not much beyond that. So it's cool to see like the races over here, the promoters and the course directors like Josh and like you said, all those guys are making it so that it's fun for everybody. So that there's like everyone can go and have like a good race and a course that's set out for them. So I think that's like being really big. Because at the end of the day, like that's what's going to grow the sport is like welcoming new people in and making it like accessible for all abilities, not just like the A class riders or the pros or whatever. And then the other thing too, which I think has been good this year, is just the spectating. I think is they're putting more effort and emphasis on that, and I think that needs to continue if the sport's going to grow. I think hard enduro it's a tricky one, isn't it? It's not the best. It's not like supercross or like even motocross. It's not the best spectator sport really, but
Right.
just by nature, because just the nature of the courses and whatnot. But like Grinding Stone this year, I thought they did an amazing job. Silver Kings, I could tell, put in a lot of effort, like having the spectator maps, and it wasn't perfect, but like it's definitely getting a lot better. So
Yeah.
that will help as well in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. I think having the different courses is pretty key, or arranging it in like a knockout format or something to where, as if you're good enough to make it further, you can ride it kind of thing, but then still making sure that everybody that shows up has a great time and,
Yeah.
fun out there. And it's not so over your head that you're getting into situations that are potentially dangerous or where you're just out breaking parts.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what's on the docket for you for the rest of the season? I mean, it's what, mid-July, basically, which is crazy.
Yeah. It's gone fast, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy. This year, the rest of this year, hopefully doing Endurocross this year. So going to start preparing for that. And actually, I haven't really spent. So I did one Endurocross race. It was back in 2021, the Juab one in Utah.
Okay.
That was my first ever time on an Endurocross track. Super fun. And then haven't ridden a track since then until the street rhythm. That was like my second time doing on like any type of Endurocross track.
Yeah.
I guess apart from like the ones that have been like, sometimes they have it like at Silver Kings, it's at the start of the race or whatever. But yeah, I actually quite enjoyed the street rhythm. It was just, yeah, kind of enjoy that just the obstacles and the I mean, street rhythm was a bit different, but the enduro cross, like the short races, like the 5 minute races, I think is appealing to me. And so yeah, hoping to do that this year. I'm going to start kind of training for that here soon, and then get ready for that. And then don't think there's many. We're hoping to go to England this year, back to England with my wife and Noah. And so probably do a couple of races over there as well. I don't know if there's going to be many hard enduros like over the summer, but hopefully do like some classic enduros and do get some trials in and whatnot, and
Awesome.
ride as much as I can over there.
Yeah. Are you sticking on the 300? Are you going to go 350 for Enduro?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the old two smoker.
Yeah.
Good, yeah. Yeah. It would I wouldn't mind having a go at the 4-stroke. Seems like that's kind of the go-to, right, in Endurocross. But I mean, Johnny did pretty well on his Johnny's Johnny, but he did well in his 2-stroke. So yeah, give it a go.
Nice. Sweet. With your work schedule, so you're full-time worker.
Yeah.
I'm family man, plus more or less full-time pro. How do you go about trying to manage balance, training, life, family, work, and all that stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hectic for sure. Just a lot of prioritizing. I'm super fortunate because just being able to work remotely has been really big. Um, so that's definitely helped out a lot. And um, my job is they're really good too about being flexible in terms of like being able to take time off when I need it. Like when I was in Erzberg, like over in Europe, being able to take time off, and then um, it's actually kind of nice. I'm working on Hawaii time at the moment, so like my work day doesn't start until later in the day.
Hmm.
So that somewhat helps because it means I can go ride in the morning, go ride and train in the morning, um, and then other than that, just having like a really supportive. Haley's just been super supportive too, and has yeah, has just helped a lot, and is kind of she'll even come to the races and is like involved with it, so that's been a big help. And then like in terms of family life, we try and do as much stuff as we can together. So like you'll notice like a lot of the times Noah will come to we'll bring Noah to the races and Haley will come, and it's kind of like a family thing for us. So it's been fun, and Noah loves it. He'll be 4 this year, so he's still really young, but he just loves being at the races and being around bikes, and so it's kind of been fun in that respect. But I think at the end of the day, it's just just prioritizing time, just trying to cut out things like that, um, and just focus on what's more important, like finding time for family, but then still being able to train and ride. And it's not like before we had Noah, when it was just Haley and I, like I could go ride on like a Saturday and I would be gone like all day. And like that doesn't happen as much anymore. Like usually it's just like get to go out for like 2 or 3 hours and try and kind of use the time efficiently.
Right.
Uh, and then like I said, I'll go like mountain biking and stuff with Noah and try and like combine stuff too to make the most of time and whatnot. But yeah, definitely blessed like to be in the position, be able to, because I enjoy working too. Like I love my job, and really like I'm riding dirt bikes, like in the pro class at a professional level, but I'm not getting, it's not like my full time job. So
Right.
important for me to still focus on work and advancing in the career there, so that I can afford to go race on the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the hard part for a lot of people. Like I know for me too, like the because I just like I love the progress. I want to get better. I don't get paid anything to do it. In fact, it's fairly costly in general. And that's that's how it is. And that's but I enjoy doing it. But
Yeah,
I've just found I've cut out so many other things that used to kind of fill up time that they don't, it's not that they're not fun or enjoyable, but they're less fun and enjoyable than going out and suffering or
yeah,
figuring out skills and stuff. So it's just felt like over the last year, especially, it's like aligned more to just focus on work when I'm working and then go train and ride.
yeah.
And that's like way more fun than, I don't know, doing the other stuff that used to just kind of eat up time throughout the day.
Yeah, yeah, I'm fully with you there. Even stuff like in like I said, like when I was in Hawaii, I was like surfing a lot at one point. When I first started riding, I was like surfing and riding. And then it kind of got to a point where I was like, man, I love surfing. I was never any good at it. I'm still rubbish. But it's super fun. And it got to a point even with that where I'm like, it's fun. It is fun to go surfing, but at the same time, it's like eating into my time to go ride. And you get to the point where you like there's things like that where you kind of have to pick and choose between the two. And at the end of the day, I'd rather like it's more fun for me. I get more satisfaction from going and riding my bike and progressing in that area. So
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, I tend to like focus in on stuff because it's like I like doing a lot of different things, but I also like doing certain things well.
Yeah.
And then once I get stuck on something, like I don't enjoy the other things anymore because I'm not going to stop doing the thing I want to do. And if I want to do this other thing, I'm going to want to do it well. So then I'm going to have to like shift focus into that. And it's
Yeah.
no time. Like it's stupid as hell, but we, live in Driggs, Idaho. So we have 3 months of summer and
Yeah.
9 months or 8 months, whatever of winter. And everybody's like, oh, you got a snow machine. I'm like, I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
A whole nother sport that I'm gonna start at poor, and as soon as I start, I'm gonna see all these people who are good and then start chasing, want to do that, and that's gonna take away from one the dirt bike trials. And it's like, yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
Maybe in 5 years or whatever, but you gotta let this thing run its course for a while.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think as long as you're having fun doing whatever you're doing, like if the dirt bikes is what's kind of bringing you the most joy, then I totally agree. Like just focusing in on one thing, that's what I personally prefer. And I like what you said. It's satisfying to kind of excel and be able to put all your energy into becoming good at one thing. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, are you doing Donner?
no, probably not. I think we're hoping to be in England for like most of August and the beginning of September. So I think I don't think we'll be back in time. So unfortunately not. I did Donner in 21. It was super fun. Good race.
Yeah.
And I heard last year was even better. So
Yeah, I didn't get to do 21, but I did last year and it was super fun.
yeah.
I'm a little bit less stoked on it just because of I think it's going to be dry as
Time of
shit.
the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets a little dusty out there, doesn't it?
Yeah. But who knows? I mean, maybe it won't. Maybe it'll rain. I think we're going. I'm not positive yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
just,
If we were here, I'd probably do it.
yeah. I say that and I'll probably end up going.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah. Are you gonna try and do any other you mentioned a couple like XC style stuff maybe over there, but are you gonna try and do any trial stuff?
In England,
Yeah.
trials, yeah, for sure. Yeah. My old man has a Montesa 4RT, so definitely get out and do a bit of riding. That's the one thing that's so nice about England is there's so many events. Like you can there's like a trial on pretty much every weekend
Hmm.
within like an hour or two drive.
That's cool.
So yeah, super nice. I'll probably I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what events are planned for when we're going to be there, but definitely at least go out and do some practicing on the trials bike, and yeah, hopefully get out to a few different trials. It's not as trials is not as popular in the summer over there. It's more of like a winter spot, but there's still always stuff going on. So yeah, probably do a bit of that, and yeah, try and get on the big bike. Maybe do a bit of motocross as well. Throw some of that in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Get ready for that Endurocross season.
Yeah. You gotta learn how to jump again.
Uh, jump logs.
Yeah. It's a little different when there's a log on top of the jump or a tire or something. But
Yeah, you're gonna have to get off that stock suspension for that stuff, won't you?
yeah, no, that's what people keep saying. Yeah, I have to figure something out. Maybe that'll be my goal for over the next couple of months. See if I can get some better suspension.
Yeah. Well, what do you, I mean, even because you're what, 190?
Yeah,
190
190.
pounds? I would think that stock's pretty soft.
Yeah.
Even like I would imagine even just by doing springs, you'd find some.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. The suspension, like the stock suspension, it works pretty well. That it just it is super soft. Like it blows through the stroke so quickly. Um, you can basically drop off like a 2 foot drop and it's like bottoming out. So it's definitely not ideal. But yeah, so if I could, I might, yeah, I think I'm gonna reach out to some people and see like what they recommend and maybe try and do something. At least maybe do like get like a hard enduro setup that might work a little bit better for Endurocross, where it's like
where you
has a
can,
car.
yeah,
Yeah,
run your clickers the other way and see what happens or something.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe just get like a little bit more bottom in resistance or something. But yeah, have to figure something out.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on. And anything else you want to mention or you can think of we didn't cover? I got, yeah, Hard Enduro series, Erzberg, Romaniacs on the docket. Maybe Serbia. That one looked really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah, yeah. That's definitely it's further like in terms of driving from England, it's like a little bit further, but if I could get there next year, that would be
How far is
great.
it?
Um I want to say it's like a 20 something hour drive
Oh
from
wow.
yeah. Ezberg was I think Erzberg was like 18 hours, just shy
Okay.
of 20, and I think Serbia might be like 26 or something like that.
Ooh,
I had to guess.
that's a haul.
I could be totally off there, but not as far as I think Romania is even further. When I was looking at that, it was a
Oh really?
long drive, yeah. But I guess the other option is renting a bike, but then it just gets expensive, doesn't it? And I don't really love. I've never. It's difficult jumping on a strange bike and racing. I think I prefer to have my own stuff. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, well, I'm always curious. I know I've had friends that have, done Romaniacs and they'll basically just ship handlebars, suspension,
Yeah,
all that stuff. So you're rent a bike and then put all your stuff on it. Um, I think they've had decent success with that.
yeah,
But yeah, jumping on a foreign bike in unknown condition,
yeah.
going out and racing is hard.
Yeah, I suppose if it's a reputable company and you know that the bike hasn't been hammered, and like you said, if you can take your suspension and bars and all that type of stuff, then I don't know. I'm pretty picky though when it comes to a bike. Like even if the levers are different, or just like little things, um, kind of throw me off a bit. I like it kind
Yeah.
of what I'm used to, but
No, it makes sense. I mean, even switching a bike on the trail with a buddy, like it's always,
yeah, it always takes you a bit to get used to it, doesn't
yeah,
it? Yeah,
grips, handlebar, levers,
yeah,
position. Yeah, it changes. Pegs are different, feels different.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. All makes a difference.
yeah, for sure. Well, again, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Thanks for having me on.
you bet. And yeah, best of luck to you on the rest of the season and see you at the next one.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
You bet.